We did. I just want to cover a couple of things over on the tweet book now. Excuse me, the X book. Oh, X is such a stupid name. Elon, stop being dumb. So, we're just briefly going to cover this. By the way, this got, holy smokes, this got 58 replies on Twitter.
Is your PC ready to run Immortals of AVM?
Buy Windows 10 Professional for $15, activate instantly online with Microsoft, and keep it forever. Don't pay full price. Get the best deal from our sponsor, urcdkeys, using our link in the video description below. Full details on how this amazing deal works at the end of the video.
We went through this the other day. You've got low, medium, high, and ultra detail.
So we're not going to go into great detail here, but I do find this interesting. For 4K, 60 frame per second high detail, they recommend a 7900 XT or a 4080 and a Ryzen 7 5700X or an i7 12700K. For ultra, yes, all of it. You need everything. I find it fascinating that they still only say 16 gigs of RAM across the board.
Several people have mentioned that.
But it's worth noting that like medium, 1440p, 60 frames per second, 6800 XT or a 3080 Ti with a 5700X or a 12700K, and this is with FSR or DLSS enabled.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
These are not native. So that's really 1080p. Mm-hmm. So congratulations, your 3080 Ti and 12700K can play 1080p.
Good job.
Or it's just an unoptimized piece of crap from EA. I mean, that's a possibility as well. Jedi Survivor, anybody?
Yeah.
So, I get it. But I'm only mentioning it because I thought it was interesting. The replies are fascinating. Several people are like, where is it?
Oh.
See, I would normally say a 2080 is absolutely fine for 1080p. Now, I'm also going to talk about this because I want to amplify this, and I'm going to say it, I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to keep saying it because we've tested enough games, we've used enough hardware, and we've played with enough stuff. I am going
Do you want me to bring Junior up to join you? Because he's the one who's been benchmarking with you.
No, this could take 3 minutes.
Okay, all right. Does the CPU matter at 4K? Yes, it does. Spider-Man Remastered on a Ryzen 5 7600X versus an i9 13900K RTX 4090 at 4K very high detail. Both CPUs are bottlenecking the 4090, the 13900K less so. Performance is the same at 1080p, 1440p, and 4K because of this. The 13900K has some reserve of ecors to allow background tasks to work, so the PC is more responsive. The poor 7600X is completely overwhelmed.
I want to clarify something in my reply here. I mean, I'm trying to keep it not a novel on Twitter, but when I say performance is the same at 1080p, 1440p, and 4K, I mean on a 13900K with an RTX 4090, you get exactly the same frame rate at all the three resolutions.
Okay.
It does not matter what resolution you play at.
So really, frame rate is the same.
Because the CPU will not let it run any faster. Just to be clarified, Spider-Man Remastered is deeply, deeply, deeply CPU bottlenecked. Now,
this is why you don't put a 4090 on anything but a top-end CPU. It really is a waste. Skip right past the 7700X and buy at least a 7900X if you're going this high-end. Having said that, once you're spending $420 on the 7900X and another $130 more to get the 550 7950X is hardly a stretch. TLDR, if you have RTX 4090 money, your two CPU choices are the 13900K or the 7950X or the 7950X 3D if you're feeling feisty. Disclaimer, both of these PCs are running on clean test benches, nothing else was running, Windows 11 is a fresh install, and the recording was done on a second PC using a hardware capture card. Only Steam, MSI Afterburner, and the game were running. We do multiple runs to verify results, okay?
so here, We have the RTX 4090, 4K, very high detail, i9-13900K, 32 gigs of DDR5, 6000 CL32. This is real-time frame rate right here. This is the rolling average, rolling 1% low, rolling 0.1% low. The two big numbers I want you to focus on are the two middle numbers. The 0.1% low is pretty meaningless, and the rolling average is frame by frame, and it doesn't really mean anything. So we're currently getting 114 frames per second on a rolling average on a benchmark that we take several minutes to swing through the city from two fixed points, run to run to run. So basically, we start at the same building.
Yep. And
we swing to one side of the city, to a specific building we have a target at. We turn around and we swing all the way back to the starting building, and that's our benchmark. To be clear.
It's actually live gameplay.
Yes, and well, there is no built-in benchmark, but we use the same spot in the city from the same two buildings at the same save file over and over and over, not just randomly playing the game.
Yep.
And this is where benchmarking, a lot of people, I think benchmarking is like, well, I'll just, load a thing and I'll just there's my number. But do you do it repeated? And then we do this run more than one time. We don't just do that once and then we load it up again and do it again. We make sure that our number, it takes a long time to do this.
It does.
How much CPU are we using?
53%. So you're into hyperthreading.
You're into the ecors.
You're using all of the P-cores and you're into the E-cores.
That's about half of the ecors being used right there. Here, we have the Ryzen 5 7600X. 84% usage, 93 average, 64 1% low versus 114 and 75. This is completely task capacity. We're using 10 of the 12 threads. There is nothing left. You couldn't possibly do anything else on this machine. Now, you could cap it at 60 frames a second, and that would lower that a bit, but then, of course, the 4090 is kind of pointless. We had a comment, was it last live stream or the one before, where somebody actually had this scenario? He had a 7600X with a 4090, and he goes, but I play at 4K, so my CPU doesn't matter. I'm dying over here. I will fix this from everybody if it kills me, because it does matter. It didn't used to.
But it does now.
But it does now. And so to everybody watching who thinks, well, but CPU matters at 1080p, but GPU matters at 4K. That was true once when games did not have high resolution assets, but they do now.
Correct.
If you want to play with a 4090, anything, now, I've already seen in chat somebody saying Spidey is not my jam. Hitman 3? This isn't the only game that does this. Battlefront 2042?
Red Dead Redemption 2, doesn't it use a lot? Star is saying that he feels like it's using 8 to 10 cores of his 5900X at 120.
Yeah. I would, awesome guy, I would never put a 4090 on a 5800X 3D. 5800X 3D is not enough. And the problem with the 7800X 3D is it's 8 cores, and you're spending a bloody fortune. That's why you buy a 7950X 3D.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not suggesting that the 4090 is the deal. This is, okay, I'm going to be blunt. This is a rich person's game. This is for people who have money and savings and investments and no credit card debt, and you're in a secure financial place in life. I strongly encourage everybody who has student loans to pay off, credit card bills to pay off. If you don't have 6 months emergency savings, you don't have your financial life in order, forget i9s and 4090s. Those aren't for you.
Nope.
You should be buying i5s, i7s. You should be buying RX 67 or 6800s, and you should put the rest of your money in the hip pocket National Bank and pay off your bills. The 4090 is for people who don't have to care about the price, which is why my standard response, and somebody on Twitter even asked me this, he said, oh, dear Lord.
That's a delete.
Would I recommend the 14700K with a 4090 if the rumored specs are true? No. If you have 4090 money, just step up and buy the best. It's like buying mid-range tires for your Lambo. It's not a good idea. This guy, thinks 4 extra ecors make a lick of difference. It's just people saying, I don't know, did they just not consider what they're saying? With all due respect, $1,600 graphics card. Power consumption, I don't want to hear about it. CPU, well, it's an extra $100 for the i9. Yeah.
It is.
Where's the calculator? It's calculator. All right.
Math time.
How many cores and threads are on a 13900K?
How many P cores?
How many cores and threads are on a 13900K?
8 P cores.
I don't know. No. How many cores and threads?
My
total?
brain's not working. It's a lot.
There
16,
are 24 cores and 32 threads.
24, 32.
There are 8 P cores, 16 E cores, and hyper-threading on the P cores only. Windows counts threads. If you open Task Manager on a 13900K and you show the CPU in logical processors, you will get 32 boxes.
Right.
The top 16 are the P cores with hyper-threading, and the bottom 16 are the E cores, which do not have hyper-threading.
Correct.
Every other box on the top 16 boxes, it's core, hyperthread, core, hyperthread, core, hyperthread. If you load up a game that doesn't use hyperthreading, and many games don't, you will see usage on every other box on the first 16 boxes, with the even numbered boxes empty because the hyperthreading is not being used. The bottom 16 boxes are all the E cores. Some games will use hyperthreading, some won't. Some games will use ecors, some won't.
Okay.
The way Windows does overall usage is 100% divided by the number of threads. Each thread being used on a 13900K is 3.125% of the CPU. So 53% is 17 threads. 17 threads are being shown there. Now, in fairness, some of the CPU is being used by MS Afterburner,
Yes.
and some of the CPU might be tinged and bleeped a little bit by Windows existing and Steam is there. But I have everything turned off on that test bench. It's not doing anything. There's nothing else loaded. MS Afterburner uses a tiny bit. I mean, it does use a little bit, but it's being recorded on another machine. So either all 16 threads from the P cores are being used, but keeping in mind that it's only 8 cores. The hyper threads are just prefetch buffers.
Correct.
Or the 8 P cores are being used and 8 of the E cores are being used, leaving 8 more E cores for
The other stuff.
streaming, watching YouTube videos,
But
a real computer that uses real cores for real things, Chrome, etc. Does that make sense? So to generate 114 frames per second average, this thing is using 17 threads on a clean test bench.
Yep.
This mantra, well, you only need an i5 for gaming 10 years ago. You only need 4 cores for gaming 6 years ago. You only need 6 cores for gaming 2
Today.
years ago. Well, fine. You only need 8 cores for gaming. Yes, that's true. You only need 8 cores for gaming. Not with a 4090, you don't.
AAA games. 4090.
And certainly not looking to the future. This isn't going down. Folks, Spider-Man Remastered is not A, a new game, and B, nothing else is going on. Wait until you play next year's games.
Yeah. Well, that's what that Immortal.
I find 6-core CPUs. Now this is cheaper now. This launched at $300. I mean, okay, you can buy you can buy a Ryzen 5 7600X for like $220 now. Let's pretend for a minute I'm okay with that. The motherboards cost too much and DDR5 is unnecessary for it.
It is. Yes.
If there were budget boards and budget RAM, I could even see a place where somebody like wants an esports machine, a casual gaming machine.
Yeah, but
I could be okay with that. But there isn't. The
Nope.
boards,
They're not.
because here's the problem.
That's-
You can buy a B660 board and 32 gigs of cheap DDR4 and an i5 12400 for like nothing.
Yep.
Not much more than just the cost of a 7600X. And of course, inevitably somebody goes, but upgrade path. Yeah, but you went with a cheap board and cheap RAM and cheap case and cheap powers. No, you don't.
So there's... Yeah.
And if you overbuy your board, we had somebody like 2 weeks ago say, well, how about I buy an X670E motherboard for like $300 and I'll put a 7600X on it now and then I can upgrade in the future. You're going to spend $300 on a motherboard for a $220 CPU so you could just buy a nice CPU now. Okay, horse, dead, but and yes, I know not all games are like this. I know not all people want to play Spider-Man. I know that games 2 and 3 years ago don't do this. But are you buying a computer to play games from 3 years ago or for the next 3 years going forward? Because if you're playing games 3 years ago, you don't even need a 13600K. You also, thank you. You don't need a 4090.
All right.
Okay, horse, dead, Jim, thank you. One more.
One more?
And then the horse will be truly done.
Looking for a Windows 10 or 11 product key, but you don't want to spend $100 to $200 for it? Our sponsor, urcdkeys, provides discounted Windows keys at amazing prices. $15 for Windows 10 Professional, $21 for Windows 11 Professional, and just $60 for Microsoft Office 2021 Professional Plus. These product keys are the real deal. They activate directly with Microsoft Online, link to your Microsoft account, and they work forever. For Windows, you simply go to Settings, Update and Security, Activation, click Change Product Key, paste the key provided by urcdkeys, and in seconds, you're activated with Microsoft. For Office, go to setup.office.com, sign in with your Microsoft account, paste the product key provided by urcdkeys, and then download Office 2021 Pro Plus directly from Microsoft. Remember to use the discount code TD20 to save 25% off the already deeply discounted prices and support our channel at the same time. We have been using product keys from urcdkeys for almost 5 years now without any issues and encourage you to do so as well.
Now, I've had several people have exception with this one. I don't care. I stand by it. Because it's representative of the problem. But tech, the 3D chips are the best gaming chips in the world, and everybody should buy one, and the others are stupid. Okay.
Tech gets asked often why he doesn't recommend the X3D chips. This is a 1080p high detail for $300. The i5 13600K is quite a bit faster than the 5800X3D.
Disclaimer time. If you have an existing AM4 board and you can drop in a 5800X3D, that absolutely has value versus a whole new system build with a 13600K.
Correct.
I am referring to all new builds. I've seen people say, well, can I just buy an AM4 board and a 5800X3D today? Oh, dear God, no. I get that drop-in upgrades have a different value equation.
So this is for a brand new PC build.
Right.
The 7800X3D is closer, but it costs quite a bit more. The i5 does use more power, a whole 20 watts. The GPU is using more power because it's making more frames. The white numbers are left to right, real-time FPS, average 1% lows, and 0.1% lows.
So we primarily care about the two middle numbers. 13600K here, 5800X3D here. Now this is a 3090 Ti, not a 4090, but last time I checked, 219 is higher than 188. Now several people have pointed out I use DDR5 on the i5 versus DDR4 on the 5800X3D. And that's a fair complaint, and it was a bigger complaint back when this cost more, but now that this doesn't cost more, I mean it does, but not by enough to matter, that complaint kind of goes away. This is also a larger gap than will exist in some games. We've tested this.
Which game was this in again?
This is Cyberpunk 2077.
Okay, all right.
Did I not actually say that in the tweet?
No.
It's Cyberpunk 2077.
I'm like...
I believe we tested 17 games. If memory serves, I'm not looking at the list, 12 were faster on the 12600K.
12?
And 5 were faster.
12 or 13?
We tested 17 games. 12 of them were faster on the 13600K,
Okay.
and 5 were faster on the 5800X3D.
Okay.
The games that were faster on the 5800X3D were faster by like 3 frames per second. On average, the 13600K was about 10% faster overall. Now, a 7800X3D would swap that a bit and would probably beat a 13600K
But for a lot more money.
for a crap ton more money. The boards cost more, the chip costs more,
Everything.
and for much worse multi-threaded performance because the 13600K has 14 cores and the 7800X3D has 8.
Yeah.
This is why I do not promote the X3D chips. They do not make sense. There's corner cases.
There are.
We addressed one the other day in a
Yeah.
live stream.
Yes, we
there
did.
are corner cases. If you want to play Factorio at 1080p maximum performance in huge factories, yes, 7800X3D for you. Microsoft Flight Sim simulators.
Yep. Emulators.
If you are strictly an esports person and you have a 360 hertz monitor at 1080p, we had one of those people the other day ask
We
about
did.
that.
Yep. We should have a bite-sized tech coming out for that.
There is a corner. 95% of you are not that corner.
It's a lot of money for not a lot of CPU.
It's not that I hate the idea, it's I don't like the price.
Correct.
I don't like the price. Now, if you could find a 5800X3D for $200 or $220 and put a drop-in upgrade on your existing AM4 board, do it. Absolutely. I'd be a champion of that. If the 7800X3D dropped to $299, I like it more. I still think the 13600K is a better chip, but upgrade path, AMD, I could get on board at $300. It's just overpriced.
Yeah, it is.
So that's
Do you have anything
we
else to say about that?
really do test this stuff. And when I sit here and I make my recommendations and give answers,
Well, it's because we've used everything.
yeah.
And we're looking at value for money. We're looking at total cost of ownership.
I am thinking about the overall experience of actually using a real computer as opposed to pressing F5 to run benchmark over and over.
Well, yeah, because it's your hard-earned money that's going into this thing. All right, we just got one super chat.